What's going on, everybody? Ryan Pineda here. In today's video, we are going to talk about the most common mistakes I see when people start investing in real estate. And let me just start out by saying I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars investing in real estate by doing dumb things. And to be quite honest, I've probably lost millions in potential revenue by doing dumb things and losing out on deals. But obviously we're still in business for a reason. Even though we've made dumb mistakes and had many failures, we've made millions of dollars along the way and done the right thing the majority of the time. But I do want to tell you about the biggest mistakes I've made in my career and what some of the most common ones I see amongst other people are. So make sure you stay till the end of this video because you won't believe the last mistake many people make. So let's jump into it. One of the common mistakes I see people make is buying sight unseen. Now look, I know there are a lot of people doing it, especially with the market super competitive, and that might be what separates you from getting the deal versus somebody else. If they're willing to buy it sight unseen and you guys are offering the same amount, well, obviously they're gonna get the deal. I actually went back and analyzed all the deals that lost me money, and a very high percentage of them were because we never saw them beforehand. Had we have seen them in the first place, we wouldn't have bought them because we would have known the renovation was gonna cost a lot more. And even with the renovation issues, a big problem with not seeing a home is not knowing the true layout. There were homes that we ended up losing money on because they were just really not functional. And a lot of times we either weren't able to change the layout or it was gonna be too costly. So I would definitely say don't buy sight unseen unless you're just getting this really good deal. It's such a good deal that even if the renovation ends up being more, or maybe the layout's not as optimal as you thought, you're still gonna make a lot of money. And to be honest, at this point, I would rather pay more money and go see the property versus paying less and not seeing it at all. I'll make more in the long run, even if I miss out on one good deal, because it prevented me from buying 5 bad ones. So definitely don't buy sight unseen unless you're an expert or you just got such a great deal, it won't matter even if things don't go as planned. Second mistake I made and that I see many other people make is not holding contractors accountable. And I'll tell you, contractors are probably where I've lost the most amount of money. And this can happen in many ways. Either they don't finish the job and you gotta fire them, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling trying to get a new contractor and now you're way over budget. Maybe they just did such a terrible job that now it doesn't sell for as much because people see that the work is not great. Or you end up with a huge repair request list because the buyer just sees all of these things wrong. Another way you can get burned by them is if they take forever to finish. We all have money cost on these deals. When you hold a property, you got a mortgage payment typically. So if they take a month extra, that's gonna eat into your profit. And so there's obviously a lot of different ways you can lose in construction, but the real thing is you have to just keep them accountable throughout the job. That means you gotta end up checking on the properties more than once a week. You gotta make sure that if they're requesting money, that they actually deserve it. I've seen so many contractors request crazy amounts of money and they're not even close to deserving it. I've seen contractors want the full payment and the house ain't even done yet. So you gotta hold them accountable. Do not pay a contractor unless they've done the right amount of work for that payment. Also avoid paying them a big lump sum in the beginning. A lot of contractors will say, oh, I want half now at the beginning and then half when I'm done. They do not need half the payment to get started on the project. In fact, starting out is usually just labor. You're doing demo and other things. You're not buying all this material. So if a contractor ever wants half in the beginning or even a quarter of the payment, it's usually a red flag and I would not hire them. And if you couldn't tell, construction is one of those things I'm not super passionate about. I don't know how to fix anything. All I know how to do is run a business. And a lot of times we butt heads with construction and running a business the right way. Don't get me wrong, there are great contractors out there. We've got ones that we've worked with for years and we don't have issues. We both understand each other. We're helping each other's businesses. It's a great partnership. But I will say there are probably more bad ones than good ones, and other contractors would probably agree with that statement. And by the way, before I get into the next few mistakes, if you are interested in getting into real estate investing and you're brand new to the business, we finally have a program for you called our Rookie Coaching Program. And I'm super excited about it. We had over 100 people sign up in the very first week, and they're already in the Facebook group encouraging each other, getting after it, and just starting their journeys. And the majority of people in the group have never done a real estate deal, and they're trying to get that first one. So if you're one of those people who's maybe been on the fence, had analysis by paralysis, maybe you have a fear of failing, maybe you got this belief that you don't have enough money or you have bad credit, None of that stuff matters. You can still flip houses, you can still wholesale, you can even buy rental properties with the right strategies in any circumstance. So if you want to sign up for that rookie program, we're gonna link to it down below. You can also go to futureflipper.com and get started right now. But anyways, let's talk about the next common mistake that I see, and that is believing tenants. And what I mean by believing tenants is they will tell you every story in the book about why they're not paying, or why you should give them an extension, or even when you're gonna rent it to them, just how great they are and that they're gonna always keep the place clean and this and that. And I'll tell you, I have a big heart, so this one is tough for me. It's always tough when you have to evict a tenant. I don't know any landlords that actually like to do it. And I'll tell you, I've always resisted evicting and been burned by it many times. I've heard every story of how they lost their job and then they're gonna have the money next month. They've got something already lined up. And then next month comes and there's still no check. Then you realize you gotta start this eviction process, and once it's finally done, the house is trashed and it's a whole big disaster. I've also seen it when we've bought properties with tenants who weren't cooperating. It goes back to the first mistake I talked about with buying sight unseen. Sometimes we've had to buy these properties sight unseen because the tenant wouldn't let us in. And I've seen that happen with people who were just squatting in the house and not paying, and then tenants who were paying, but they didn't want people to come in. We've had to either go through a long eviction process to get them out, and by the time we do, the house is not in very good condition. Or even with a paying tenant, it could end up leading to big problems. Take, for instance, if they're paying way below market rent. They've been living there for 5 years. They should be paying $1,800, but they're only paying $1,200. Well, you as the new owner probably want to get close to market value rent because that's what it goes for. And then the tenant will be reluctant, and then you got this whole fiasco on your hands. So long story short, the point I'm trying to make is that I've lost a lot of money because of tenants. And you just gotta remember that owning a rental property is a business. And for that reason, I would just rather delegate it off to a property manager so I don't have to deal with it, because I get way too emotionally involved. All right, let's jump into another big mistake I see people make, and that is being overly optimistic. Now, there are a bunch of ways you can be overly optimistic. One of the ways I see it all the time is just thinking that renovations are gonna be way less than you thought. You're saying that, oh yeah, this is a $20,000 renovation on this house, and it turns out it's really a $50,000 renovation. If you go from $20,000 to $50,000, you're probably gonna lose money on that deal. And I've been guilty of that because I'll buy a deal where it's like, man, I can't really buy it if it's a $30,000 renovation, but maybe if I could get it done for 20, the deal makes sense. And guess what? Even though I try my best to try and get the cost down, maybe we try and sub some things out, it ends up still being close to $30,000, and it was a deal that I shouldn't have bought. So do not be overly optimistic on your renovation budget. Another way I see people be overly optimistic on is their timeline. They'll look at a property and say, yeah, this should be easy, in and out, 3 months. And I'm like, I can tell you our properties don't take 3 months to flip. Sure, some of them do, but very rarely will you be in and out of a project in 3 months from the day you buy it to the day it's sold to the end buyer. Because think about it, if you buy a property, let's just assume best case scenario, it's vacant and you can get into it right away. And then just say your renovation takes you 2 months, then you throw it on the market, maybe it takes another month to get a buyer, then that buyer has to do their 30 days of getting their loan, then all of a sudden they don't like what they see, they back out. Then you got to put it back on the market. Then it takes a while to sell again. By the time you're into it, it's been 5 or 6 months. Now, granted, that's an extreme example, especially in today's market where things are flying off the shelf like that. But overall, we flipped hundreds of homes, and I can tell you our average is 4 to 5 months. And honestly, when we're running numbers, we pencil in that it's going to take 5 months. And if we could sell it in 3, that's great, more money for us, but we're not writing our deal out that way. Which leads me to another point about when you're evaluating deals, and that's being overly optimistic on what you're gonna sell it for. So in the flipping world, we use a term called ARV, the after repair value. And that's what we say we are gonna sell the property for once it's fixed up and looking good. And so you'll see a lot of investors who say, oh man, I'm gonna get $300,000 for this house. It is the best, most beautiful home. And in reality, the comps say it's worth $270. And then they'll say, but our home is just so much better. We have way better finishes than all those homes that sold for $270. And that may be true, but it does not mean your house is worth $300,000. And so I see a lot of people make big mistakes on what they can actually sell a home for. So don't be overly optimistic on your sale price. If you end up getting $300,000, that's great, but you should write the deal as if you're gonna get $270. Another big mistake I see people make is they're not being pushy enough. And you're probably thinking like, Ryan, I don't get what you mean. You're not being pushy enough? That doesn't make sense. And I'll just tell you, being polite has cost me so much money. You know how they have that saying that the nice guys finish last? Well, in real estate, the polite guys finish last. And here's what I mean by that. The people who are willing to be a little pushy are the ones who get the deals. If you want to get a deal that's on the MLS, do you think if you just call the realtor one time, you're gonna get it over the guy who calls the realtor 10 times? I can tell you, the guy who is hammering that realtor, being pushy, trying to make a deal work, they're gonna be the ones to get it. The same thing applies when you're dealing with off-market deals trying to talk to sellers. If the seller tells you, oh, I'll think about your offer, and then you give them a week to think about it, by then, somebody else has probably already made them an offer and got the deal. But if you are a little more pushy and you followed up with that seller every single day, sometimes even multiple times a day, you're way more likely to get the deal versus the guy who's trying to be polite, the guy who's trying to be considerate. So when it comes to sales and getting deals, I can tell you, being pushy is better than being polite. And this also applies to all the other aspects of real estate. Think about your contractor, for example. If you are on them every single day, you're at the job site, you're talking to them, they are much more likely to get that job done way quicker than if you were to just check in with them once a week. When they know they gotta answer to you every day, things change. They are gonna work way differently. Same thing with lenders. If they know they're not gonna hear from you, they're gonna work at their own natural pace. In business and in life, you wanna disrupt people's natural pace. When things get comfortable and things get easy, people get a lack of motivation and there's not a sense of urgency. You'll hear it from the best CEOs, the best companies, the best business people. They were all very pushy and had a very big sense of urgency. If you let people just do what they're naturally gonna do, you're probably gonna get poor results. And look, we're getting pretty long in the video. There are a ton of other mistakes I've made. If you want me to make another video like this detailing some of those mistakes, definitely comment below and also comment what kind of mistakes that you've made in your career. And like I said before, if you're interested in getting into real estate investing, go check out my rookie coaching program. We're gonna link to it below. We've got a bunch of really motivated students who are going after that first deal, so I'm super excited about it. And if you haven't already, go hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Till next time, peace.